Hello, friends. Welcome to my Facebook live stream. I am actually going to be talking about Chariot LARP, which is a LARP that I launched today. And this is going to be a LARP that I'm running online. So the alpha test actually begins this week, and then the full LARP itself starts in October. Once I return from some travels. So I'm really excited about it. And I'm just going to go ahead over to Facebook here and make sure that this is posted publicly so that everybody who wants to see this can see it. Because this is something that I'm hoping to get some signups for. Hey there, Christina. Thank you for checking in. So we're going to be talking about Chariot LARP today. And this is a digital LARP that I'm running, which one of the things we're going to talk about is this even a LARP? Because it's all run online. So the premise for Chariot LARP is we're in the future, we're towards the end of the century, and we are facing global annihilation thanks to war. And a group of people, which would be your character, oh, hi Emily, thanks for joining. And a group of people, including the characters, the PCs, have been selected to join the crew on this mission, to join Captain Emily O'Shaughnessy, that's me, on this mission to head all the way out to Proxima and found a new colony. But the journey takes a while. So you as a player or your character will never see their family, their friends, their coworkers ever again, not even your pets, which makes me cry because I have a dog and I love him very much. But you will not get to see them again. So this LARP is ideal for anybody who is interested or open to exploring themes like grief and letting things go. And I personally have done a lot of work on that as a player, and now I'm bringing that into my game design with this. So the idea is that you are getting ready to leave Earth and head onto a spaceship. And the thing about it is, the LARP itself does take place on the computer. So you as a player are physically sitting in front of the computer, just like I am now, talking to you, but your character is also doing that. So you are talking to the other people that are going to be on the spaceship. You're not on the spaceship yet, you've just been selected. You get your letter, and hey Nick, you get your letter, and you're told, great, you've been accepted, and you get to meet 9 other members of the crew, including your captain. So that's exactly what's going on. And so the LARP itself takes place over the computer as well. So not just you as the player are interacting over the computer, but your character is. Now down the road, I live right near all the double exposure events like Metatopia, and I do make yearly appearances over at Gen Con. So down the road, the next part of the LARP, which could be in person, can be us meeting on the spaceship and doing that kind of thing. That said, you don't have to play the in-person portion if you're playing the online portion and vice versa. So that's how it works. And I'm sure that there's been some LARPing done online before. I don't know if it's been regularly streamed. This LARP is going to be streamed on Twitch, which is a super up-and-coming platform for things other than just video gaming. It's known very, very well for things like video gaming, and that's what I'm going to do. It's creative is blowing up. Every time I talk about LARP on there, it does pretty well, and I want to bring LARP to the masses. So anybody can watch it for free. It is going to cost to participate. I have recently become a full-time editor and game designer, so this is part of my job. This is part of what I've been working on, and I'm really excited to launch it. So it starts in October. I'm running the alpha test, which is already full, throughout September, and then in October it begins. And I have a couple of things I'm doing in October. I'm going to be out in California helping run Imerton. I'm going to be playing one of the goddesses in that game, and I'm helping with the design of that a little bit, which is a Learn LARP production, Imerton.com. You want to check that out. And then then the week after that, my friend Alex is getting married, so I am going up to Quebec to go to her wedding, and that will be fun too. So once I come back from that, I am running Chariot, and that's going to be the beta, which is actually the first full run of the game. And I will give you guys the I'm going to comment here and give you the URL if you're interested in it. That's not only the Chariot LARP information. That's all of the LARPs that I'm doing and will be working on. So I have had another question. I don't know if I can tag anyone in here because my friend Jess had a question. I don't think I can't tag her from this program. But my friend Jess, if any of you are friends with Jess, aka Jess Prime from Dragon Thrones, give her a tag. I don't know, Christina, if you're friends with her, but if you are, please tag her. She was also asking about other LARPs I'm producing, and I am working on a LARP about the American Revolution. The design document is nearly done. I'm just looking for a location in the Philadelphia area, and I'm looking for some funding options. That's likely going to be a Kickstarter in late 2018 or early 2019. It'll be a blockbuster LARP. The other thing I'm looking for is a British person who would like to play Major Andre. It doesn't have to be a man. I will cast that as male, female, or agender. Oh, I'm sorry you can't tag her. I don't know what the deal is with that. I'm going to try on Facebook to tag her because she had questions about this other LARP, and I want to answer that as well. So let me see if I can do it. There we go. I was able to tag her. Woo. So, so that's called Intrigue and Independence. It's going to focus on spycraft, and that's happening next, probably 2018 or 2019. We'll have a big Kickstarter for it. But again, the two major things I'm looking to lock down are location, investment, and also I am looking for somebody who is British to play Major Andre because that'll be super fun. Lots of surprises. Working on a video script for that, so that we can do a little trailer for it, and I'm really excited. But great. Once Jess is here, hopefully she'll say hi, and then I can go back to answering her questions about that game, because she had some. But going back to Chariot LARP, it is a month-long online game. So you sign up. It's $50 to play. You get over 10 hours of gameplay. And it's also a lot about character development. So if you really want to hone your character development skills for writing or LARP or anything like that, that's the way to go, because we're going to go through a character workbook, and it'll also some optional in-character journaling. It's going to take place on Tuesday and Thursday evenings, mostly in October, and it's 2 hours a session. So it's kind of almost like playing a D&D session twice a week, only it is completely a LARP. It is all online. It is Nordic-inspired style, so do expect tears, do expect emotion. Yes, the alpha is being streamed as well. So I'm going to drop the link in there to, let me do that. The link, it's my Twitch link for the alpha. Tara the Bard. I think that's it, yeah. That's the Twitch channel for my alpha. Facebook likes to bury Twitch links. I always try to post my Twitch stuff on, and it's very hard to pull people from Facebook over to Twitch, which is part of the reason why I'm doing this right now. It's just really hard to get people over there. And while you're over there, if you happen to be in the United States and have Amazon Prime, I'd really appreciate a subscription, because it's actually free for you to subscribe to me on there, and I get money for it. All you have to do is click subscribe at the top, connect your Prime account, and it's free for you to do, and it helps me out. So hi Terry, it's good to see you too. Only streaming to Twitch, no multi-stream. Ashton, that's a great question. I would consider doing multi-stream. I don't have that hooked up yet, but that is something I would consider doing, because most of my audience personally, and most LARPers I know, are actually on Facebook, not on Twitch. Unless they're hardcore gamers, and or they don't think of Twitch as a gaming platform beyond video games. And in fact, I am LARPing on Twitch and talking about LARP on Twitch and doing all sorts of LARP stuff. So it is very possible that multi-stream can happen, and I do think it would engage more of my audience in particular if I did multi-stream. It is tough to manage comments and the interaction at the level that I want by multi-streaming, because it's very hard to monitor both Facebook comments and also comments over on Twitch. I have some great moderators. Some of them are in here right now, who really helped me out. And it's totally new, so I don't know how it's going to go. But if multi-streaming is something that people are interested in, that's something I do, absolutely. And part of the deal with signing up to this LARP, both the alpha testers agreed to, and that any of the participants who pay to play are going to agree to, is that it gets streamed. So the whole LARP is streamed. Your vulnerable moments are streamed. We do still use safety mechanics like we do in many Nordic-inspired games. So we do have the out-of-game symbol if you have to negotiate a stream. But overall, I anticipate that being very low, even though immersion is high, because it is basically a very loose schedule, and it's basically interaction. So people are going to interact to news updates that I'm providing with what's going on Earth as we're preparing to leave. And then we're going to be walking everybody through, saying goodbye to people. I am looking to cast, in particular, a counselor type character to assist with that. So if anybody here is listening is interested in doing that, you would get a very big role. I don't use NPCs in most of my LARPs whenever possible. I use what I call scripted PCs. So this counselor would have a certain amount of things they have to accomplish. Their character goals are not optional. They have to basically provide certain information and have a very good sense of timing. And otherwise they're free to play their character as they would. So that's how I prefer to write. I don't like to really write NPCs. I just prefer to do scripted PCs and give the player some agency. In Intrigue and Independence, which is the blockbuster I'm planning, there are a few scripted PCs. A couple of them are cast, but we're again still looking for Major Andre. So I'm looking for somebody British in particular to play Major Andre. Rachel, hi. How does the LARP on Twitch play out? Is it sort of like everyone in character on screen? Exactly. So the way it works is the players don't have to worry about the streaming component of it at all. What they do is they just call into Google Hangouts. And then I'm broadcasting Google Hangouts on Twitch. So I take care of all that difficulty for you. There are also moderators. There will be moderators in the room so they can monitor what's happening and whether people are being mean or whatever. And when there are instances, like towards the end of it, we might do something like an in-character Ask Me Anything. When that happens, we're going to ask the participants to be in character and stuff like that. I love the theme of letting go and grief. I think it'd be a good learning experience, and crying feels so good. It does. Crying is a very cathartic experience and something that I chase a lot myself in LARP. And I wrote about it over on NordicLARP.org after I did New World Magischola Run 1. I had just lost my grandfather, and I just lost my grandfather. I was ending a relationship, and yet I had this big blockbuster LARP that I had tickets to, and I was nothing in the world could keep me from going to NWM. So I went to wizard school, and I requested a scene for my character with her mundane grandfather, which is mundane is like a muggle, like a regular person who doesn't use magic, and got the scene. A very talented actor who is older played the grandfather, and I had a very cathartic scene where I cried, and I trusted everybody that I was LARPing with and everyone who was in my house to support me through that, and they did, and I became extremely close to that community. And I really look forward to carrying that experience through. I'm going through some rough stuff now. I just was like, I lost my job, and I was like, what do I want to do? And actually, my friend Nick, who is watching right now, he told me 4 or 5 days ago, he was like, you're in love with your job, meaning editing and creating gaming documents and design. And I'm like, yeah, I am. You're right. And that kind of was like, wow, I really need to go forward with it. And I am in love with doing this. This is my focus. This is 100% of my focus. So Chariot LARP is the first step. It's a little scary to do because I'm asking people to pay, and it's $50 for 10 plus hours of gameplay with a fully designed workbook. But I'm asking for people to pay for something that if it were D&D or any kind of tabletop game that I was broadcasting, I would not really be able to ask them to pay for. But I'm also hoping that the people who are going to join this, I'd like to get some new players, first of all, who haven't LARPed before. But I am also, I'm sending this message out there to a bunch of people who are used to paying $45 for a weekend all the way through $1,200 for a weekend. So that's how I started pricing it. And, if I can do 3 or 4 runs of games like this online, that will pay my bills full time. I won't even have to pick up editing work, which is fantastic. And right now, most of the editing work I'm doing anyway is for game related things, game design stuff, helping out other game designers. And this is what I want to do with my life. So I just kind of was like, this is a LARP I want to do. Here you go. And Chariot LARP started out as the blockbuster. And I was like, where am I going to find a spaceship? And then I was like, wait a minute, I could do this online. And then I was talking about it over at a Salon LARP design class, design seminar at Gen Con that Aaron Vonick was helping me with. And he was like, why don't you just do the part before they leave online and then do everything else in person, like at a convention? And I'm like, that's freaking amazing. So that's the idea. Because one of the weak points in the design was that the LARP is supposed to take place where we're all in the same location. And it feels less immersive if if you're supposed to be one room over from me and I can't actually walk over to you, that is really not immersive. But in this instance, it is a bunch of people meeting online for the first time, and talking about their hopes and their fears and going through this process of letting go of Earth. And I think we're going to end up exploring a lot of things like, what is your identity from, whatever country you're from? What is your identity as it relates to other people? Because your roles change. So right now, I'm the mom to a dog. If I were getting on a spaceship in 4 weeks and he weren't coming with me, that role would change. I would be very focused on my new role on the ship. And that's going to be like your assigned character role. The other thing about this game, and this is inspired from the guys who run Dragon Thrones, there was so much great feedback towards that game about their character casting process, where they had personalized conversations with people. So the first thing we're going to do, and we're going to start tomorrow night actually on the stream for the alpha test, is I'm actually going to do personalized consultations with every single participant. So I spend a half an hour with you and I talk about, I kind of guide you through the process and I say, here are some roles available on the spaceship. Here are the themes of the game. I get to know you and figure out what you want to play. So I am writing a character for you, but you're pretty much like, we're co-creating it. Even as a designer, I am always better when I have a good collaborator, and my players are going to be the best collaborators. So that's what we're working on. That's what I'm working on doing. I just will always be a better writer as a collaborative person than I will be on my own. So I can create a wonderful structure and get feedback, but it's really the players who make the game. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to do here, is have people have an active role in their character creation. I come originally from a Boffer LARP background. And in Boffer LARPs, you generally get to have a very customized experience. So there's a lot more stats and numbers, which I don't prefer. However, you get to build your character with the staff member or alone and bring your character for approval. And then at some of my other favorite games, you get an assigned character. That's more common in Salon LARPs or Nordic LARPs. And then at Dragon Thrones, it was an assigned character, but there was like an interview process. I didn't go through it because I was a GM. But there was really good feedback about that. And that's something I've passed on to other game designers, is like, they killed it with this, taking time to just talk to the players and get a one-on-one sense of what the players wanted. So I'm, especially considering this only runs with a total of 10 people at a time, I'm looking to have that experience be really personal. Rachel says, even though Dragon Thrones is my only LARP experience, I love your character design idea. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that is, and it is really heavily inspired by what they did. I think a personal experience is important. I think for people who really want to connect to their character, it's completely important and okay for them to have something that kind of connects them. I know, like for me, I'm playing a character right now in an online Star Trek role-playing group, and she always says, fight me, right? That's her thing. When stuff gets tough, she doesn't back down. She's like, fight me. And I'm like, that is like the common connection I need with that character, because that is how I'm getting through life right now. And that is part of the reason I've made Chariot LARP, is like, I'm like, fight me. So it's okay to have something in in line with that with yourself. And that's okay. If you want to explore that, I'm going to help you do that. And we're also going to have an in-game counselor to help with that. There are also emotional safety workshops, discussions, some really good habits that I think some of you watching should pick up on about how to communicate with others, how to play out different things. And another really cool theme that Chariot LARP is going to explore just by the nature of the design is this whole idea of online relationships, right? So when we sign up for LARPs, like big LARPs that are not near us, or even ones that are near us, we usually meet people online before we even meet them in person. So the foundation of our gaming communities is often facilitated by this medium. And I think it's worth thinking about that with how Chariot LARP goes. And I think it's worth really, kind of designing around that and discussing that as part of the thing. So that's another really cool theme we're going to explore. I think primarily it will steer towards grief. It's going to be really hard for our characters to say goodbye to people. I know that I intend to bring it pretty hard with that and really kind of explore the different things I'm saying goodbye to. I'm a big fan of Star Trek Voyager, especially the first season. And the plot of that show, they get thrown out way further away than anyone has gone before, really. And when they do the calculations, they realize that getting home is something that may not happen in their lifetimes, or that will happen like when they're super old. And that causes all of these people to examine what they're saying goodbye to. Now, they don't get the chance to say goodbye before they leave, but it created a lot of character development that doesn't necessarily happen in other types of games. So if you have any other questions about Chariot LARP or about any of the other stuff I'm working on, do throw it in. Again, Chariot LARP is the digital LARP that I'm doing entirely online. I don't think I'm the first person to do it. I mean, I've definitely LARPed with others on Google Hangouts before. That's something that I've tried with Susan and Marshall, two of my friends from New World Magiscola, and we found it to be surprisingly immersive. And it was just the three of us, and the way we made it work was we did a scene on the astral plane. Hey, Judy, thank you for joining. No, you didn't miss a lot. I'm going to go over things because I'm really just starting to take a lot of questions about LARPing in general. If you have anything you'd like to ask, or about Chariot LARP, which is the all-digital LARP I'm running starting in October. And the alpha runs starting Tuesday. So I'm going to post actually up here. Judy, I know you're following me on Twitch, but the way to follow the alpha of this is to follow me on Twitch. And again, that's the link, twitch.tv/TaraTheBard. So I'm going to be broadcasting the alpha there, and then the beta, which is the first run, will probably go over on a different channel made just for Geek Initiative LARPing stuff. There was a question about whether I'm multi-streaming. A lot of people are going to be doing this here, wanting to see this on Facebook, and I am going to look into doing that. If anybody has any support about how to do multi-streaming, that's fantastic. Adam might probably know more about that. I think he multi-streams. Adam is Judy's husband who runs the Star Trek game. All digital, yes. So, Adam, thank you for asking that question. All digital, yes. It's an enclosed portion of the game. So this part of Chariot LARP is all digital. It is about a bunch of people who know they've been selected for a spaceship to leave the war-torn world of Earth. They go through a process of grieving, things they have to leave behind. And the entire LARP takes place from the moment they get the letter and first meet the other people online. Oh, that's okay. Thanks, Judy. I'll catch up with them later because we got to talk about other web stuff anyway. So it starts the moment they get the letter from the captain, who's going to be played by me, all the way through a month later, all the way through they get up and leave to actually go meet each other in real life. So it is all online. It can be played standalone online, but if you'd like to continue playing after that, I'm going to run segments of what happens after that at events. So you could do the online portion, and then you could play at Gen Con where we're actually on the spaceship, or at Metatopia where we're on the ship. So you can continue it if you want. You don't have to play the digital if you're playing in person, and you don't have to play in person if you're playing the digital. They're standalone things. There are 223 people, I think, on the ship in the background. So it's assumed that you won't actually interact with everybody on the ship. Google Hangouts only allows you to have 10 people on there, and for a digital LARP, I wouldn't want more than that anyway. So it's 9 people, including myself. And one other thing I wanted to mention about the amount of people that are there, it's all going to be done on line stream. So PCs, the players will call in to Google Hangouts, and I'm going to take care of the rest about streaming, and I'm going to have moderators to take care of it. The other thing I wanted to mention about the limited number of tickets and people on each run of this, and right now only one run is live. I'm going to wait till that sells out before scheduling another run. But, the thing about that is I'm actually selling 8 tickets, and part of that ticket cost subsidizes a 9th ticket, because accessibility is a major reason I'm doing this. Not just because I think it's important for people of various backgrounds, financially and otherwise, to access LARPs, but because I was looking at making this a blockbuster LARP, and to do a blockbuster LARP, you need a down payment for a location and insurance and all that stuff, and I don't have those resources yet. But I wanted to run something now. I mean, I lost my job, and like I told you before, my friend said, you're in love with your job, and I'm like, I got to do this now. It's now or never. So that's part of the reason why I'm doing it. So for me, it's more accessible, and I hope to make it more accessible for others. So there's going to be like a scholarship kind of thing for one person in each run. So the 8 tickets are going to subsidize the 9th ticket, and the 10th slot on Google Hangouts is going to be me running the game as the captain. So I do have some other questions here. How would the live stream work? Okay, yeah, so great question, Christina. So the way the live stream works, and there are other things you can do, like video diaries. If players want to do that, I am 100% absolutely going to encourage them to do like a confessional or whatever they want to do, and I'll stream it. That is really freaking awesome. But the main meat of it is they're going to sign into Google Hangouts, and I'm going to live stream it twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursday nights for this run. Other runs will be on different nights at different times. I'm a night owl, so if I get enough interest from LARPers in Europe, I'll even do this then. Different times. Excuse me. Correct. It's not in real life, but it is real time. It's just like this, me talking to you over the computer. And the characters, and this is an important part about keeping it immersive, the characters are actually online. And it goes for 4 weeks. It starts in mid-October. It goes for 4 weeks. And that's just for the first run. After that, I'm totally up for doing more runs. I mean, I would do this full time if I can sell enough runs. If I can sell 4 or 5 runs, then this will be my full-time occupation from the moment I get back from my travels in October. Again, I'm going to California beginning of October to help run Emerton, and then I'm going up to Quebec for a wedding. When I come back, this is like my job. So if I can sell out five runs, then I'll do it. There's only 8 tickets for sale in each run, 9 slots, because the 9th one goes to somebody. So are there any sort of safeguards for Google Hangouts or Twitch glitches if a player gets sort of the tech gods? Yeah, I mean, that stuff happens. It is sort of up to the tech gods. Oh my gosh, you're signing up. Thank you. So all the information, I'm going to answer that question in just a second. All the information is here on TGI LARP. You can click on the Chariot LARP logo. Big shout out to Jess, who was super awesome and made the logo for me. I'm like, I'm not going to lie, guys. I lost my job. I'm like not in a great spot. I'm totally broke. Decided to kind of just do this thing that I'm in love with doing. And she was really cool and made a banner for me because I don't do like graphic design, and the other thing I don't do is math. Yeah, she helped me with that, and like, yeah, I had people like helping with math. But I wanted to price it accessibly, but also do something that I could feasibly actually make a living off of. So that's how I priced it. And I also wanted to price it so that I could subsidize one of the tickets. So that's where you go to sign up. And to answer the question about the tech stuff, yeah, I'm looking at doing some rescheduling for, if there's ever any kind of glitch like that. I have a backup connection just as far as running it. I've actually streamed using my mobile device as a router, or as a hotspot. So I know that works. It's not ideal, but it works. It does actually go through. And if a player can't make it for whatever reason, I'm willing to do like a one-on-one makeup session with them or something like that. That's not a problem. And it takes place in a time when there's a lot of war on Earth. It's not an easy time. So if somebody can't make a specific session, there are lots of in-game reasons as to why that is. And the idea, again, is that the characters are selected for being really good at something. So, or for being really useful at something. So if you're like a really good teacher, for example, that's why you're selected. So it's possible that your character didn't make the hangout because you were, tending to the students in your real life Earthbound teacher job, right? So there are always reasons for stuff like that. So that's how it works. And there's a set schedule. And by the time I get to the beta run, there will also be a backup GM just in case something happens to me or whatever. There's also other people who can step in. The scripted PC role I talked about, which is the counselor, and I'm going to back up for people who weren't on before. I don't really do NPCs in my LARPs. I do scripted PCs. And a scripted PC is a character who is a player character. They have objectives to complete, but unlike regular PCs, their objectives are not optional, they're mandatory. So an example of that, for intrigue and independence, I'm going to use that as an example. That's the other LARP I'm working on right now. My character, who is going to be centered around the inn, she's going to be like a master of spycraft, and her objectives are all going to be about motivating the players, motivating the PCs to get information to her so that she can supply that to General Washington. And that drives the LARP, right? If I don't do that, then that doesn't motivate the LARP. It doesn't move it forward. So scripted PCs work like that. And in this game, there's going to be one scripted PC, the counselor, who has a mandatory thing that they have to do, which is to kind of guide the characters through this process of letting go, this grieving process, and to be aware of that. And that allows me as the GM, if somebody else is handling that kind of emotional burden, that allows me as the GM to check in on everybody and make sure that their emotional safety is in place, because that happens. I mean, this is going to be a crying LARP, okay? This is going to be full of some feels and emotions, and it's going to be really good for anybody who feels like they just need to let go and feels comfortable enough doing that on stream. I mean, it's a big ask for the players to do that in front of a lot of people, but I'm up for it, and I hope other people are too. So I did. Crystal, thank you for watching. Crystal was there during that scene that I mentioned about New World Magiscola 1, where my character spoke with her grandfather, who was a ghost, and she cried. And it allowed me to have some real-life catharsis and process some real-life grief for it. Scripted PCs sound cool. Players who get to play but have a very specific role. That is exactly what it is. And the way I came up with that really was I've been running my game She's Got a Gun at conventions, and it's finally had its first real run, not in a playtest. And as I've run that, I've noticed, especially at conventions, that game draws in a lot of new LARPers. Great. We love new LARPers. Come into the hobby. It'll be so much fun. But what I noticed was that LARP either required a GM to wear a lot of different NPC hats, because in She's Got a Gun, you have this feminist idea of one female or female identifying PC who has the power of a gun when nobody else does. That's the premise of the LARP. And the other PCs do not have a gun. And it's very thrown together in the way that there's a list of scenarios that you can pick from, and then you play it. So one of them is a sinking ship scenario. They're all survival scenarios. A sinking ship scenario. There is one about the Easter Rising in Ireland. The sci-fi one is the most popular one. There's a problem with your ship. There is one in Africa about Queen Mabande. So I try to take things from, to use ideas from different cultures and different historical scenarios to both bring awareness to the history and also to create the pressure and give a woman power. And in that LARP, they might need an NPC. And so they'll come up to one of the two GMs and say, okay, how do I do that? And then I'll wear a lot of different hats as the GM. What I found was that it was more immersive and realistic to identify a strong player and ask them to feel free to move plot along. And when you ask an experienced LARPer who loves having a very active role in LARPs to do that, and they're comfortable with it, great things happen. Because a lot of them were like, oh, I just didn't want to step on your toes and take over your LARP. And it's like, oh, no, we've role played together. Please do that. So when I do ask people to play scripted PC roles, that's exactly what I'm hoping them to do. And it's usually with somebody I've role played with before. Nick is on our chat. He and I have role played together in the Star Trek role playing group. And so I've seen him play a leadership role, and I've seen him kind of guide other characters and other players in the fashion that I need for intrigue and independence. So I've asked him to play a scripted role because he can fill that specific thing that I'm actually, some of the things that I'm actually not necessarily very good at, right? I'm not good at keeping people in line in and out of game, and I'm too nice. So I need somebody who can be like, hey, do this, do that. I tend to cast scripted PC roles in that fashion. So I'm playing off of the strength that someone has that maybe is complementary to me, but not the same kind of thing that I can do, right? So I really wanted somebody in a role like that. I don't know if any of you know Elsa Henry. She is pretty widely known in the US LARPing scene. Fantastic role player, really good at playing a badass. And she came and played She's Got a Gun at one of my games. I think it was at Metatopia. It was at one of the double exposure events, and it was the last playtest of the game. And I kind of pulled her aside and was like, hey, would you feel comfortable kind of just taking the lead, and she kind of had the same response of okay, I don't want to take over your LARP, but I'm totally comfortable with doing that. So it was really wonderful as a GM to sit back and let the PCs run the game. Not because I want to be lazy, but because that's more immersive and it creates a better experience for all of them. And in our Star Trek RPG that I keep referring, Adam, who runs it, he usually sets up the scene and actually lets us run it and really lets each character do their role. And I feel like it gives me more agency to interact with the other characters. So She's Got a Gun sounds badass as heck. Wish you could do a Colossal Con East. Yeah, I don't know anything about Colossal Con. I'm always down for running She's Got a Gun. My problem is monies. Getting to events and running them right now, it's really limited, and I'm focusing on just getting the bills paid with this game with Chariot LARP, and then I'm going to be shifting my focus to finding a sponsor for Intrigue and Independence after I find a location and can do all the financing for it, because there's a lot of different money stuff involved, which is really scary. That's the part of building a huge LARP that I'm not good at. I'm great at project managing a big LARP. Great at saying, hey, I'm not good at this. Can you come in and do this thing? Like I was just describing. So yeah. And I did my casting first, and I'm still working on trying to find a major Andre. So if you know somebody of any gender who would be comfortable, playing, a leadership role, in a blockbuster LARP who doesn't have to pay, who is British, I would absolutely love them. And this character's not an asshole. This is a nice character who happens to be on that side. So I'm really looking for someone to do that because my Lafayette is a French speaker and from Quebec, and I think it's going to be really cool if I can get an authentic person to play Major Andre. So I'm totally on the lookout for that. But yeah, as I was saying, I would love to run She's Got a Gun at other cons. She's Got a Gun, Christina, it is going to be for sale soon. I'm actually finalizing it, putting together a PDF, and it'll actually be for sale on the website. I'm just waiting to transfer my website to a more secure domain, and then I'm going to have it for sale. So you'll be able to buy it. It's only going to be like a few bucks, and you can just download it, print it out, and run it. And one magical thing that happened at Gen Con was the PCs were a bunch of experienced LARPers, and they had the document, and they stopped halfway through, and they were like, I'm so sorry, I'm taking over and running your game. And I was like, no, that's great, because I designed this in hopes that you could buy it, download it, and play it at home. So I was really glad that people could do that. So yeah, that's the whole idea of when I write Salon LARPs. That's the whole idea. And the whole idea is making it accessible. Again, it's a few dollars. You can print it out. You can look at it on your computer. That's the idea with She's Got a Gun. The idea with Chariot LARP, same thing. You don't really need anything extra to run it. It's low cost considering what it is, and you can sit there and play it. The controversial thing, the weird thing is that I don't think people necessarily have done before is I'm asking for money to run a LARP online because this is my job, and also because I want to subsidize that final ticket for the other person. So that's kind of like the risky, scary, weird thing. And, there's been some talk about, like, is it really a LARP if you're only running it online? And, my answer to that is yes. It's still live action. It's still role play. It's still immersive. It's voice. I have a feeling that people are going to get a higher level of immersion than they might have gotten at some other LARPs, because I have had an incredibly immersive experience doing online role playing only. So when I role played that scene with Marshall and Susan, it was fantastic. Hi there, Todd. Yes, I would love to give a quick recap. So what I'm talking about tonight, I'm actually doing an overview of all of the different LARPs that I've designed for the Geek Initiative and things that are coming up. But the main thing is Chariot LARP is now live, and I'm hoping to sell at the first run. Here's a link. I'm going to show it on the screen, and I'm also going to put it in the comments here. There's a link. Just click on Chariot LARP to learn more. But basically, Chariot LARP is an online LARP. So everything is done online. And the premise of the game is that Earth is war-torn. It happens towards the end of this century. And your character has been selected to leave Earth on a journey to Proxima B, where we'll start afresh. And that means that you need to say goodbye to everything and everyone here. So the entire LARP is taking place online, not just as players, but as characters. You get a letter from my character, Captain O'Shaughnessy, saying that you have been selected for your expertise, and please sign online and meet some of the other people that you'll be with on the ship. So together, our characters are going to go through the process of saying goodbye to Earth and talk about how they feel. And there are also going to be things like news updates from around the world where we learn about conflicts and outbreaks. I'm going to try to stray from real life things, because a lot of us, especially here in the US, we're really stressed out about stuff that's going on, stuff that's hurtful and harmful. But I am going to give some general updates about like world news in this future setting to create a sense of urgency of why we have to leave and why it's important for us to take humanity to another place in the universe. And that's it. It's going to be 2 hours, and there are going to be 2 sessions a week for a month. There's a full, complete workbook so that you can actually follow along as your character, fill out all these character development things, and there are going to be additional optional things like journaling, video confessionals, stuff like that, if you want to even go the extra mile and get more out of it. But it's 10 hours of gameplay, and the alpha test is starting tomorrow. We're actually starting with the character development process on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/TaraTheBard, and anybody can watch that for free. The beta, which is our first run, is what I posted a link to. It's selling tickets for that right now. And I'm hoping to do 4 to 5 runs because I want to run LARPs full-time as a job. I was let go from a previous job I've been doing a lot of editing work for other game designers, looking at game design documents, stuff like that. It's been keeping me afloat barely, and I am looking to do this full time. So at the cost that I've set this LARP at, if I run 4 to 5 games digitally, and I'll always be developing new settings, this is my job. This is it. So I've kind of decided to like take the plunge and give this a try. I'm also developing other LARPs. I'm developing a blockbuster LARP called Intrigue and Independence, which is about the American Revolution. And in that game, it's going to be focusing on spycraft, interpersonal relationships, and really exploring a lot of the closeness that some of the people had historically. And you will play an original character, possibly based on something that a historical character did. However, there are only going to be a few named characters in it. Washington and Hal are going to be a GM behind scenes, sending orders, receiving information, stuff like that. And we'll have my character, who is, she's not a famous person, but she will play a role. I won't say more than that. You are going to have Major John Andre, who I'm casting. Also open to casting that any gender. Doesn't have to be John, just J. Andre. And that is going to be the person representative of the British. And then I have already cast Lafayette, and he will be representing the French on the American side, but also has to kind of lead the Americans in convincing the French to join the effort. So if the American PCs fail, then France does not help them, and it is highly unlikely that they will win their revolution. Hi, Jess. Welcome. I've been trying to get you in mainly because I wanted to thank you so much for designing the logo for Chariot LARP, and also because I've been giving some information about Intrigue and Independence. And right before I went live, I saw that you messaged me a bunch of questions about my American Revolution LARP. And I'll just go over that one again real quickly. Intrigue and Independence is a blockbuster LARP. I'm scouting locations right now in the Philadelphia area. It is going to be like a 4-day game, and it's focused around social interactions. It's American Revolution, and you'll play an original character in that era. And no, I totally understand. Dragon Con is super important, man. I get that. And so you'll play your own unique character, but there will be a couple of famous historical names who will appear. Those are the scripted PCs, including myself. And I'm looking to do a Kickstarter, probably in the next 2 months, I want to say. And right now I'm looking for financial backing to actually rent the facility, to reserve the facility where the game will be taking place. So I'm scouting facilities and looking for that. And Jess, you can wear a bonnet. Yes. And I'm running into certain really interesting things about that particular LARP. So Chariot LARP takes place in the future. So my hope is that, unfortunately, the world is war-torn, so how much more progressive can we be, right? But in the future, it's a little bit easier to work with in terms of you can be who you want to be. There's not going to be like a big deal in a LARP about the future if you're like, my character is trans, or my character's pronoun is different than I, am commonly interpreted. That kind of stuff is going to be like super easy with the future LARP. And we have rules about all that stuff so that everybody gets, so that hopefully nobody gets like misgendered and their pronouns are usable and stuff like that. But kind of easy to do in Chariot LARP. When you're doing a historical LARP, it's really difficult. I'm running into a lot of difficulties with it. And this LARP has been in development for a year, and I'm taking my time with it because I wanted to take my time specifically with the cultural sensitivity. So because I'm going historical with it, there are other people doing American Revolution LARPs who are doing like alternative history, stuff like that. I'm going really historical with it, and I'm saying right up front, like, I will not hold it against anyone if they're not comfortable playing this game, because unless you were like a white dude, and a rich white dude, your life was kind of crappy back then. And there are things in the game where no matter what you look like or what role you choose to play, you'll have a lot of agency. I've been really careful about that, but it's difficult. How will Chariot work for folks living on the West Coast in particular time zones? Right. So most of the Chariot events for the beta run start at 8 p.m. Eastern, which is 5 on the West Coast. But one of the reasons I want to do more than one run is so that I can accommodate your schedule. So if there's interest from the West Coast, which I really hope there is, I'll do a later run of Chariot LARP. So I'm a night owl. I and most of the people that I role play with in my other role play group, we usually work at night. So I am completely fine with starting a game at like 10 my time, which is 7 your time, or 11 my time even. So I will do, that's a great suggestion. I'll actually would consider making the Delta run a West Coast run. So once the beta run, so alpha is my alpha test, which is happening starting tomorrow. And I already have that filled. Beta is the first run, which I'm selling now at the link down there on the screen. Delta, I would be more than happy to make a West Coast run. And then if our European friends are interested in this, I would also be happy to do a run at like a different time earlier in my day, for example. Totally, like, this is my full-time job now. So I will do whatever it takes. The only thing I ask is that I have to wait until I'm back from all my stuff in October, because I've got another game to run, and I've got a super important wedding I'm going to, and then after that, bam. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm also, as we're doing this, I'm working on Intrigue and Independence and looking to get that off the ground. Again, it's a blockbuster LARP. My design document's almost done. I'm scouting locations here in Philadelphia, and I am looking for investors to go ahead and put money down to reserve a location, because with a blockbuster LARP, you can't run a Kickstarter unless you already have your location and your insurance. And those are things I can't afford to buy right now. Chariot LARP is going to finance my living expenses to continue designing games and running LARPs. It's not going to pay for that stuff that I need. So the Geek Initiative doesn't have the LLC. It doesn't have the insurance yet. I want it to, but I've got to wait until I can kind of get back on track here, and then hopefully get stuff going. You should advertise this to the Spoonie community. This is a perfect LARP for people with chronic illness and or limited mobility. I already have a few friends in mind who might love this. Christina, oh my gosh, my heart is going out to you for that suggestion. I have rheumatoid arthritis and hypothyroidism and PCOS, and those things suck individually and together. And I've had some rough times at LARPs, and I actually had to quit my a Boffer campaign game that I helped create because I developed chronic illnesses and couldn't do. I could have still gone, but it was still a challenge for me to sleep outside. It was still a challenge for me to cope with the allergies, because once that inflammation starts, it triggers other chronic inflammation. And I was a battle healer, right? Like, that was my thing. I was like the backpack healer would go into the middle of combat, and I realized, I had to give that up. And I started playing games that required not as much physical activity, but it's still a lot. I mean, in July I did New World Magic School of 5, New World Magic School of 7, and I also did Dragon Thrones all in 1 month while I was like broke after I just lost my job. And I was like, this is a little much for me to do. And that's why I'm really insistent on not running the first full run of Chariot until after I come back from Quebec, because I'm going to be having a lot of travel. It's a long flight to California and back to help run Emerton. And then it's a long drive or flight, depending on how I go, up to Canada and back. So that's going to be rough. And I'm trying to make sure I get through that. So you've got back problems. I'm scared and bought for LARPs. Yes. Yeah. Really, Judy? Up here, all the doctors say PCOS. So I don't know. That's where I got it from. But yeah, this would be great for the Spoonie community. I don't want to like take advantage, but I am part of that community because this is what I do. I don't necessarily know Spoonie LARPers. I think there's one Facebook group for us that I'm in somewhere. But accessibility is a major reason I'm doing this, and not just financial accessibility, but also for people who do have trouble getting around. I would LARP every single weekend if I were not limited by finances and my own mobility. I just can't do it. I have to take care of myself. Any kind of physical activity, I need to rest, usually like the next day. So there are some days, and this is one reason I work at home, there are some days where I work in bed. I'm really active on the role-playing game I'm a part of, and half the time I'm like writing that from a desk or bed because it's tough. I mean, today my hands are kind of swollen. They're not as bad as they can be, but I have to be really careful of that, and this kind of LARP is going to help me. So I understand that with the back problems. I didn't have trouble with buffer combat really, but I carried a shield. And one thing about me that I always carry through to my characters, and you'll see this as I play Captain O'Shaughnessy in the alpha test and again in the beta, is I love playing very loyal characters. I can't not be a loyal person. I can't not be a loyal friend. And one thing that carries through to all my LARP characters is that. And when I played Ciara at Seventh Kingdom, she was super loyal to her king, and she had a heart-shaped shield with his symbol on it. And yeah, she had a thing for the king too, but she had a heart-shaped shield with the symbol on it, and I carried that on my left arm. Well, my shoulder injury is right here, and so it aggravated that a lot. It aggravated that. My neck is always constantly swollen because of that injury. It's a trapezius injury from a car accident years ago, and it triggers a lot of other stuff. And kind of admitting that I couldn't carry that shield was almost like saying, well, Ciara and Tara, your loyalty means crap, and that's the worst thing when you really internalize something important like that about your character, and, the situation makes you feel like maybe it's not really worth anything. That was really hard. And I'd love to create a space online for people to feel like they do fit in, and for people to feel like they are able to participate and able to play part of themselves and able to grieve actively like that. So yeah, I'm hoping that's what it'll accomplish. And I really hope it works. I haven't had any direct expressed interest in actually signing up for the games. So thank you, Christina, for doing that. I just kind of tossed this live thing up here thinking I hope somebody's interested, and since it's going to be me talking about game design, although that's always fun too, and I do that a lot on Twitch. But it's exciting that people do think that it's worth the price tag, and that it's priced well, and that there are people who would play it. So even though it's through live stream, it could also work for people with social anxiety because they have full control over whether they're there or not and can be a comfortable and familiar place. Exactly. And one thing I am actually going to talk to Jess about after she's done with Dragon Con is maybe even recording a video or writing something up about set design, because Jess is really talented at set design. And one thing that I learned LARPing online is to actually dress the setting appropriately. So it's going to be what does your character's living area look like? And that can be part of it if people choose to participate like that. So one thing that I learned LARPing online is we did an astral plane scene. So we had the lights dimmed. So it was my character was already in the astral plane at the beginning of it. And so I just had the room dark, and I had a candle, and my hand was over the candle. I looked kind of like a Sith, but whatever. I was on the astral plane, and my hand was over the candle. And when by the time they approached me, they went to the astral plane and approached my character. Selena had her hand over the candle, and I was looking like this into the computer, and it was a very different side of my character that they'd seen. And a lot of that was due to the setting. It was all just caused by dimming the lights and having a couple props. Super simple, very accessible. Things I already had, nothing else extra that I had to buy, which was really fantastic. I really miss decorating my cabin at a campaign LARP. Well, Todd, I get that. I miss that too. I used to take a good half of the camping supplies for my group in game, and I miss that so much. And what I do feel like I compensate for that a lot by taking part in other groups, in designing LARPs, and I definitely plan on doing some set dressing myself when I run this game, and I'm really excited about it because it's what does the captain's desk look like? And I'm actually thinking for my character, she's been ready. She's got a lot of reasons to have been ready to go leave Earth for a while. So I'm actually thinking about it being some boxes in the background when I play her, because she's already got her stuff packed up. She's already thrown away a lot of that junk in her life, and she's ready to leave. And that's certainly how I feel about stuff. Yay! Interior design degree. Woo! So yeah, that's something that I certainly feel pretty strongly about, is that set decoration is another accessible thing that can be done on this kind of online game. It's going to be interesting. Chariot Page is actually going to be documenting this process, because and I feel like weird kind of saying this because I don't want to have like a super ego about what I'm doing, but I don't really think anything's been done in this capacity before in terms of a LARP that runs online as a month-long thing. People definitely get into their tabletop role-playing characters, and I've seen some story gaming done that is more role, R-O-L-E playing than rolling the dice playing. But, I don't think that anyone's truly done this as a LARP before. And if they have, I don't think they've charged for it and made it like a real established, hey, this is a game I'm running thing. Part of the way I got the idea was, for those of you I know from Dragon Thrones, I ran these night missions, which were, it was part of the design of Dragon Thrones that Chris and Evan did, and it was kind of borrowed from the game Dread. So basically the players would choose where they wanted to go on the lovely map that they designed for the game, and then I, as the GM, would do like a narrative thing and walk them through that. And for any big successes, potential successes or failures, I had them pull a Jenga block out from Jenga and to see whether they succeeded or failed. And I was skeptical because it was very narrative, and I thought this is going to destroy immersion, right? Because I'm narrating what's going on. And that's like the number way to kill immersion. And I found out that it was actually extremely immersive. And we were just really in it. A lot of us were really tired at a certain time. Yeah, the Jenga adventures. You were at one of them, Christina. And, we did some goofy stuff. We did some fun stuff. We did some game-changing stuff. My team went over and poisoned another kingdom's troops. Yeah, using that. So secret missions, yes. And so that was a thing that we did, and that really inspired me, and it got me really interested that even though it was narrated, it was still extremely immersive. So then when I role-played with my Magiscola friends on Google Hangouts, we did less narration. We planned the scene more. We did less narration, but instead of saying things like, okay, we're going to the astral plane now, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Marshall and Susan were phenomenal. They did things like they asked through questions. They did a very yes and thing. And they were like, okay, do you hear the birds chirping? Do you see the trees? And Marshall even had a soundboard going. So he would like on the spot be like, bam, birds, bird sounds. And we would hear it. And it was so immersive through the sound. I don't know that I can have all that sound stuff going for Chariot LARP. I'm on an old computer, but down the road in the future, that's a possibility. And I think we're going to really focus on the content of the game and each character, make it very character driven. But if there are sounds and other stuff like that, yeah, I'm going to have some clips playing. I've got some friends to record cool news clips from around the world, and they're going to be different for every run. So seeing one run won't spoil the others. And these are all free to watch. So if you go on to Twitch, and I'm actually going to put that link up again, twitch.tv/Tara the Bard. If you go onto Twitch, that's where I'm going to be broadcasting the test. And you can actually, what's cool for viewers, it's free to watch. There are things you can get called bits, and you click on the little pizza slice thing in the comment box, and you can watch ads for free because they're ads, right? They're selling you something, and then they give you bits, and then you can give those bits to me or any other streamer, and it actually turns into like real money. So there are free ways that you can, as a viewer, support Chariot LARP and support game development. The other thing I mentioned earlier, if you are an Amazon Prime member in the United States, you can click the subscribe button, and using your Amazon Prime account, you can actually subscribe for free as a viewer, and it costs you nothing, and I get money, so that really helps me out. I need to reach $100 payout to get any money out of that, and I've got a few. And, I have a Patreon and everything too. It's all on the Twitch page. I've got a healthy amount of money coming in through that, but I'm really trying to make a full go of this. Like, my life and every sign I've received is just do this. You're a game designer. Do this thing now. So, person listening to the stream that's told the most of their friends about this wins. I told 3 so far. Todd, thank you. Christina's told a lot of people too, though, and she's given me some more suggestions of where to advertise this. So, I don't know. It seems pretty even. And I got to say, everyone on here who's from the Red Guard, like, Red Guard people, man, they support me constantly. So even though they're not all LARPers, I don't actually know if any of them are LARPers. Yeah, that's Odin in the background, my dog. I don't know if any of them are LARPers. Nick is going to be a LARPer because he's playing Lafayette for me. But they're all role players, and they're all damn good people, and they're all doing their best to support me and always in my streams. So thank you to them. But I'm going to cut this soon. If you guys have any other questions, can Odin be in the LARP? Odin will probably be in the LARP. Odin has been in a LARP before. Odie, come here, buddy. Come on. Everyone wants to see you. Show your ugly face. This is Odin, my dog. Odin, my doggo, snorting at me. He's a very sweet boy. When I've run She's Got a Gun, and we did the sci-fi scenario during the alpha test in my apartment. I used to have a studio apartment before I lived with Tina. And Odie was our space dog because we needed to kind of make him a feature. He's a feature, not a bug. We tried to make him like a feature of the game because he was wandering around. And that was super fun. So, yeah, this is my puppet doggo. So yeah, Odin may be a part of the LARP. I think he may end up being Captain O'Shaughnessy's dog. I think he might even be like one of the toughest things she's got to say goodbye to because I love my pupper. Mwah! He's a good boy. Hey Chris, welcome to the stream. Everyone, this is Chris. He's one of the people I was talking about who is one of the geniuses behind Dragon Thrones and the night missions that I was talking about. That was in his game, that narrative form. So I'm gonna do the spiel one last time before I head out. And if you guys have any questions, go ahead and toss them into the comments, and I will answer them for you. So this is all about Chariot LARP, one of many LARPs that the Geek Initiative is launching. Chariot LARP is all done online. And it is a game about individuals who have received a letter letting them know they are accepted to join a spaceship crew that will be leaving Earth for Proxima B. And this LARP takes place at the end of the century. And the first step for them is to go online and chat with 9 other people who have been accepted. So the players are online doing this digitally, and the characters are also online doing this digitally. So there are news updates and other things that talk about the game world. I will be playing Captain Emily O'Shaughnessy, who will be providing various updates and stuff for it. So the information about the game is right there. There are various LARPs in development that are listed there, but Chariot LARP is the first one. And it is going to run 2 nights a week to start. And it'll run for a month. So you're getting about like 10 hours of gameplay, including the workshopping and everything. And it's $50. So I'm looking to do up to 5 runs of this game, which will actually be supporting me full-time as a game designer. So that is my goal. And my other goals for the game, I want it to be really accessible. So anybody who might not be able to afford even a $45 a month game, or maybe they can only afford like a $45 a month buffer LARP, but they want more play, they could do this instead. It's also good for people. Christina was pointing out people who, like me, have chronic illnesses and can only do so much at a LARP. It's very accessible. It's done from the comfort of your home. And there are 8 tickets for sale. The 9th one actually is a subsidized ticket done from the cost of the other 8 tickets. So I sponsor a ticket for somebody who can't afford to go in each one. And it's a 10-person thing, limited to 10 people, including myself. I run it on Google Hangouts. It's all you need to do. Everything else, the streaming and all that, I handle. And that's pretty much what happens. So that's the main thing that I'm talking about today. I'm also talking about Intrigue and Independence. That's my American Revolution LARP. I'm scouting locations for that right now. It will take place in the Philadelphia area. Right now, I am looking for anybody to work with or sponsors, because you need to book a location for a LARP before you can actually go ahead and like sell a Kickstarter. So I can't lock down my dates or anything like that yet. So in the next month or two, I'm looking to do that and launch the Kickstarter. And I'm also looking for somebody British to play Major Andre, who is not a jerk. Not a jerk. All of the PCs in Intrigue and Independence are going to be original characters, minus a few scripted PCs, which will be Major Andre and also Lafayette, and my character, who is a super secret character. And the GMs are going to be the generals behind the scenes. So Howe and Washington are going to affect the spycraft in the game behind the scenes. Nordic-inspired setting with a lot of Nord-American, as we would say, safety rules present, and very emotionally intense LARP. Chariot LARP, the online one, it's going to start online, but the sequel might run at a convention or two. So you can play just the online LARP. You can play just the LARP at the convention. You don't have to do both, but you can do both, or you can do them separately. So those are the big things I'm working on right now. And I guess I'm like a full-time game designer now. I'm still doing a lot of editing, but it's pretty much all nerd stuff. So this is kind of what I do now. So if you like the concept, the game is $50 for 10 hours of gameplay, which is pretty sweet. And there's a schedule. Right now it's an East Coast schedule for the alpha test, which is already filled, and the beta, which is our first true run. That's East Coast time, but I did get a question about what we could do for people on the West Coast, and also maybe for people in other countries and time zones. And I'm a night owl, so I am pretty much willing to run a game at any time if there's enough interest. So Delta and Gamma will probably be in different time zones for people who want to do that. So that's what I've got going on. That's my super big announcement for today. Hey, the Geek Initiative makes LARPs now. You should totally play one. And I appreciate the questions. I appreciate spreading the word. I appreciate your help on this brand new venture. It's kind of a weird thing. Do you have any religions written for the game? I'm interested in people's motivation for going on a spaceship. Fantastic question. So the game world is now in the future. So it is kind of the real world, only it takes place in the future. And the world is kind of being torn asunder by war. So the main motivation most people have are going to be that. So that's the primary motivation. However, there's nothing saying that there can't be religious or spiritual characters. I want to avoid like creating a hate scenario and some of the difficulties that we already deal with in real world. So yes, I would allow a super religious character. No, I would not allow somebody who's opposed to religious beliefs. I'll put it that way. So yay, religious character. No white supremacist. I know that's not what you're asking to play. I know you, and that's not what you do. But a religious character would be super interesting and fun to play in that setting. So I 100% think that that's a doable character option. And the last thing I want to mention, and again, tossing credit out to Dragon Thrones, the number one thing that everyone said they loved about the game was this super personal character development process. And I've kind of been saying this everywhere, for real, having that one-on-one time with the game designer to create a character can really just change a player's perception about a game in a really big way. And people will have a lot more faith through the game if you reach out and do that. And that's something I've been pushing for ever since I heard all the Dragon Thrones players say that was great. Oh my gosh, they actually reached out and asked me stuff about my character one-on-one as opposed to just sending me a form or whatever. So since each run of this game only has 9 people in it, that is very easy for me to do, and I'm going to live stream the whole thing. So I grow my brand, I grow the stream, I advertise for more games as I'm doing the character interviews. So that's part of the whole process and part of the game. So especially when they've never LARPed before, RP'd before, absolutely. That's huge, Chris. Like, and since accessibility is one of my number one goals for Chariot LARP, I really want to make sure that I'm accessible and available and that the game itself is designed around that. So being able to reach out and get a chance to do that and talk about that is everything. So yes, I am going to use Twitch. It was also suggested that I multi-stream. Most of my audience, and I don't know, Chris, if this works for you or for any other game designers watching right now, but for me, my whole audience is actually on Facebook. So I am affiliated on Twitch. That happened through persistence, through the fact that my amazing roommate, Tina Degenhardt, is a full-time Twitch streamer and told me exactly what to do. And that happened because of the crew of the USS Red Guard, my Star Trek role-playing group that I'm a part of. They're a really supportive community, and they just came together and supported me, and I got affiliated a few days later because they boosted all my numbers. So it is on Twitch, but I think multi-streaming is the way to go. It just depends on how many people I have to moderate, because I'm going to have someone look at the Facebook comments, someone look at the Twitch comments, and that takes a lot of moderation. But I do think that's a good idea. Hello, Raquel. It's good to see you here, too. How will you make players of different nationalities feel comfortable during interviewing? That's a fantastic freaking question. Well, first of all, my game, I welcome everyone. One hang-up I've had in design is that, like, I'm running this first run in Eastern time zones, so I'm going to get a bunch of people who live near me. I'm going to get a bunch of people on the East Coast of the United States, because that's the time zone, maybe in Central Time. I'm hoping to do other time zones. But during the interview, I'm probably going to, part of the reason I'm doing the one-on-one interviewing process is I'm going to ask them, like, what they want to play, or who they want to play, or what problems they anticipate, or how can I make them feel comfortable? What subjects do they want to avoid? What do they want to tackle? And so I'm hoping that will really make people of different nationalities feel comfortable. Personally, me being from Philadelphia, I know I talk quickly. I know I'm doing it now, and during the actual LARP, my character is different than me, and she will speak in a way that I think is going to be easier for people who have English as a second language, and also for people who have different developmental disabilities and stuff. Because again, I want this LARP to be accessible. So I'm not going to go chattering on like this the whole time. I will, speak at a pace more common, like in the Midwest, for example, where I used to live. So those are some examples of how I would do that and how I would make people feel more comfortable. Eventually, if this system of running LARPs online at this way and this pricing grows, I want to grow my team, and I don't want my team to simply be full of people who are from the same country as me and look like me and speak like me. And I think growing it will also help. For now, it's mostly me with amazing people like all of you supporting me, but hopefully that will help. And if you have any other suggestions, I always welcome them. I know what you're talking about. I believe Adam does that, but I don't know how he does that. He uses some program thing. Yeah, multi-streaming. I got to look into that, because all of my audience lives on Facebook and they won't leave. I'm like, come to Twitch. They're not into it. It's a different audience. So that's a big challenge. It's been a big challenge because I used to run LARP Chat Live, which is a talk show about LARP that I've relaunched. I used to run that on Blab, which was a platform that was integrated with Twitter. So that was really cool. I used to easily pull people off of Facebook to go on to Blab. Can't get them onto Twitch. It's just not happening. Can't get them onto Twitch. It's killing me. But maybe the multi-stream will help. Maybe that will help. So thank you for thinking it's a great idea. Good night, Todd. Yes, tabletop is growing on Twitch, and people get really into the roles and tabletop gaming. Geek and Sundry kind of owns that as far as tabletop gaming. I'm probably the first weird at a charge for doing a LARP that's going to be broadcast on Twitch. I know people have mixed feelings about it. But again, I'm trying to make everything accessible. I'm subsidizing a ticket. 1 ticket per each game and a limited amount of seats in each game, and this is my full-time job. So if I can do like 4 or 5 concurrent runs of this, it pays the bills, and I don't have to edit stuff I don't like. So yeah. The other thing, Chris, is I'm noticing, and I talk about this with the Red Guard crew a lot, I'm noticing this merging of different gaming styles and mediums. So, for example, what they're doing on the Star Trek role-playing game, it's streamed on Twitch, but it's text-based. But we also are considering doing things where we teach, where we have like sessions where our characters are all in the same room and it's a voice chat role play, because we're pretty comfortable with talking to each other in that group. So it would be voice chat role play, talking like that. So it's like merging these different text-based RP, streaming, talking to each other, and it's really, as soon as I saw that game, I was like, this is really indicative of where I see gaming going, where it's not strictly one type of game or the other. Because once you start doing voice roleplay over a stream, you're going into LARP territory. That's closer to my gaming background as a LARPer than it is to my gaming background as a writer and a text-based role player. So have you considered making your streams into YouTube videos as well? Yes, I actually export everything. I export everything that I stream and upload it to YouTube as it is and release it after. Yeah, I mean, I'm not like a good video editor or anything like that, but I do export everything to YouTube. So you're going to be the start of a new style of LARP. Thank you. I hope so. Innovation is what I love, and innovation is what another thing I'm hoping to achieve here. The more ego-driven end of designing this game is probably innovation. I like doing that so much, and it needs to be accessible. It needs to be accessible. So I think this might make that happen. So I really hope so anyway. That's a big part of the goal. So Twitch should be able to upload to YouTube automatically. Yeah, I have it set to not do that because some of my streams are like, meh. But some of my streams are awesome, and I'm like, upload that. I don't upload the ones where I'm like weird. Yeah, I mentioned Google Hangouts because all the players are going to have to do to access this game is to click on a Google Hangouts link and participate that way. Everything else I will provide to them on the stream. So the actual, or on Google Hangouts, the actual stream itself is going to be on Twitch, which if they have a second monitor, they can load and mute if they want to and see the comments. But I'm going to have somebody in there moderating the comments and everything like that. There will be portions of the game that will be like AMA. So people might want to ask, like we'll have one of the segments is going to be, hey, here's our crew, 9 members of our crew and the captain, ask us anything. And that will be your opportunity as a player to bring people in who may or may not be used to LARPing and say, like, ask my character stuff about going to this other planet. And as our characters will actually be able to answer it. So in that session, I'll have a moderator queuing up questions and sending them over to me, and I will ask these questions to all the characters over YouTube. So, or I'm sorry, over Google Hangouts. So what I'm looking for right now for Chariot LARP, I'm looking for a scripted PC who's going to feel comfortable playing a counselor character. That's really key. And I'm looking for people to fill the first run so I can start selling the second run, possibly for West Coast folks to participate, and maybe doing the third run international so I can get other people on board. That would be, that's what I'm looking for now. But that counselor role needs to be filled by somebody who's really familiar with LARPing and comfortable with doing that. So the characters will be interacting with people from Earth during that part of Lars and Cross. Yes, the whole thing takes place on Earth. So we're not on a spaceship yet. We're meeting each other in character online. And then at the very end of it, it's like, see you in a week, everyone. And that's where it ends. So together, we talk about the unique process that only 233 people have total, which is that we get to go save civilization, basically. And that's the premise, that we're going through this thing together that other people will not understand. They're doomed to live here on Earth as it gets destroyed. And that's pretty much the premise. So it's going to get pretty intense. It's going to be a lot of grief, I think, as part of the process. So exactly. Christina, you're 100% on target with the kind of stuff I'm looking at. Once the beach gesture. Yes, together. Yeah, that's going to be a theme too. If the players want to really focus on working together, eventually I would love to get a game running where we get people from different parts of the world in. One thing I've struggled with is if I run it in this time zone, then I'm only going to get people from my country. I'm only going to get people that look and talk the same. And that kind of stinks. So I've made it so that the entire ship is actually 233 people. So we can assume that, like, hey, this is the meetup of people, from America or whatever, meeting each other first. And that will be with an international crew once we get on the ship. Multiple ships, multiple streams, all one game, but different games. Exactly. I could do multiple ships, yeah. And the idea, again, is to carry it over so that if I'm at a convention, I could run a game, and you could play the game whether or not you participated in the internet session. But it would be really cool because at first I actually wanted to charge $150 and make this like a 30-hour thing and not just do meeting up before we leave, but being on the spaceship. And then I realized I don't think it's really a LARP, or I don't think it's very immersive if you're supposed to be sitting like 2 decks away from me on a ship and I can't just come and talk to you. Like, what the hell? But it was suggested to me that I do the beginning portion online, and then if people want to play it out, to run it at conventions and do the meet in person thing there, or just run a standalone thing there where you're actually on the spaceship. So that's definitely part of it. And I would say like the biggest inspirations for this game in terms of the content are Star Trek Voyager and Ascension, which is a little known but wonderful TV show about people who do something similar. And I don't want to give anything away because there are some twists in Ascension that are not going to be part of Chariot, but they're really cool. So I don't want to give it away. You should totally watch those shows though. And, just really having a good sense of how I've done a lot of observing, a lot of observation of how people run different styles of LARPs and online role-playing games. And I'm trying to take the best habits of all of them and really kind of mix them together. So, Christina, especially if you want to play Chariot LARP, I highly recommend you watch Ascension. It is on Netflix. So it's if you have Netflix, it's easy to watch. Really cool stuff. You're going to run into some of the same themes here. When you see the design document for Chariot, you are going to see a couple of the same themes. You're going to see stuff about this generational ship. Yeah, it's only one season. That's correct. Meaning, so our characters in Chariot LARP, we're the first leaving. We are not going to live to see the planet that we are going to create our new area on. And I'm avoiding using, I'm actually calling this the Proxima Project and stuff like that, because I want to avoid using terms like colony and settlement, because they're very unfriendly to indigenous people and to people of color. And they also they really have a heavy connotation of patriarchy. But guess what? I'm the captain of this ship, so we're not doing that. But to this new planet, right? So we're going to this new planet. So all of our characters, we're going to die on the ship. We're not going to make it there. Our children, if we choose to have them, are going to be very, very old, if they even live when we reach Proxima. The children will not live there to reach Proxima. Their children may live, but they'll be very old. And their children will live or, grow up on Proxima. And then their children will be the first generation born on Proxima. So part of what our characters are going to face is the fact that we're spending the rest of our lives together on a ship. We will never see, this isn't a brief jaunt to Mars. And actually, Mars is the original place where I was going to go have them establish a new city. But I went against Mars because somebody told me that it'll take 8 months to go there. So the possibility of going there and talking to your family in the future, or having them come join you is a lot higher, but Proxima is far away, and the possibility of that is slim to none, especially if Earth is in a very dire situation, which it is when we leave, which is tough, But do watch Ascension. Check out like the first 3 episodes of Star Trek Voyager. That's another inspiration for this game, because they're flung across the universe and they have to figure out how to let go of some stuff. They do it unexpectedly. The characters in this game have applied to be, or at least invited to be part of this mission. And Chariot is actually the name of the ship. I was asked why Chariot. Couple reasons. Number one, I didn't know what to name stuff. My friend Jax was like, I love naming things. If anyone ever needs something named, ask. So I was like, here's my game concept. What do you think? And it was one of the names she suggested. And I liked it. But, really respected game designer Jason Morningstar actually asked, why did you name it after an object of war? And I was like, he always asks me the best design questions, and to have like any shred of respect from him is like really flattering. But I was like, you asked the best questions as usual. But, and I love that it has a double meaning, because it can be an object of war, and we're leaving a planet of war. But it also looking at it as this, towards the gods thing, this like vehicle of the gods. And the fact that Chariot has a double meaning is nice. And it's a pretty word. I like poetry. It's a pretty word. I think if it has its own like plaque, there for the captain, I don't think it would just have a quote. It would have some kind of poem about that. I don't know what, but yeah. Link to sign up again. Yeah, it should be on the screen there, but I'm also going to pop it in here one more time. That's the general TGI LARPs page. Also, I'm like really looking for a lot of feedback on that, on the safety stuff, on inclusion. Yeah, so go ahead with that. The Chariot is also a tarot card. That is true. I was just talking earlier about tarot and astrology and stuff like that, because my friends, am forever a Pisces. If I'm not being creative, I feel like someone's killing me. So it feels very good to kind of release this to the world today. But yeah, the Chariot is also a tarot card. It's got a lot of really cool meanings. Christina, I think all of your observations, insights, and questions indicate you would be a fantastic player in this game, and I really hope you'll sign up. I'm super excited about it, and yeah, it's ready to roll. The alpha test is happening soon. I'm going to post some updates on that soon, so you'll see the schedule, because you can actually follow along the alpha test and see how it goes, and that's totally free to watch. So yay, Pisces power. Any other questions? Any other stuff you need to know? Because otherwise I'm going to cut the stream. It's 12:31 here, which is a half an hour later than I thought I'd be going for my lovely East Coast friends. Yeah, I think that's it. You can follow up with me. Send me a private message on Facebook. I'm going to be busy for the next day or two getting the alpha testers settled and completing some paid work that I owe. But if you have any questions, do let me know, and I will answer them. You can also leave them in the comments here, even if you're watching this later as a later broadcast. Absolutely. And you can also go to the Geek Initiative's Facebook page and do it there and leave a comment there. Yeah, thank you, Chris. Any feedback you have, it's a one-woman operation here, so I put everything on the Geek Initiative site. It doesn't even have its own subdomain yet or anything like that. But this was kind of a creative vision that just needed to go. And after losing my job and just observing how professionally everybody ran the games that I played this summer, I was like, I can do this. I want to do this. I'm doing it. So it's live. Any suggestions would be very, very welcome and appreciated. And yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I want to get a lot of that sorted out before I really dive fully into working on Intrigue and Independence, and because that's going to be a blockbuster, and that makes me nervous because that's a lot. That's huge. But I've got a lot of people asking about it. So yeah, you still want me for DT2. I have the date reserved, so I am yours for that date. I will be there. For anybody watching who doesn't know what that means, that's Dragon Thrones 2. Awesome game that actually they do their events near me in the Philadelphia area, which makes me really happy. And I got to GM for them the first run. So apparently they like me and stuff. Apparently Ardmore likes me. What? So, so I'm hoping to be back for that too. So, definitely check them out as well. All right, everyone, I'm going to sign off. Any other questions, drop them in the comments here. Reach out to me. And Jess, thank you again for the lovely graphics for Chariot. I love our logo. It's beautiful. It makes me so happy. It completely conveys what I want this LARP to be about. So it's really fantastic. Okay, thank you, everyone. Drop me questions if you have them. And hi, Jesse. Okay. Yeah, that would be cool. I'll be there. I will figure out how to get there. It'll be a thing. So, any questions, send them to me, and I will see you guys later. Bye.